Hey, how you doing out there? I am preparing to log off and go on a much needed vacation. Your girl has been working hard. In addition to working hard, and I know I'm not the only one working hard. I know it's a whole host of folks that follow my podcast, that support my platform and content, my co conspirators in the movement for racial justice, racial equity. Y'all, some hard working folks, boy. Y'all, some of the hardest working people I've ever been so fortunate to meet in my life. And I just want to say thank you, first and foremost. But as I prepare for vacation, just wanted to stop by and, share a couple of reflections with you. I'm taking a needed vacation, to get a little respite. We know that I am a huge proponent of rest and self care. It's essential to our survival, especially when you're Black in this country and when you're Black and committed to the work of equity. And that goes for anybody, allies alike. If you're in this race and you're doing this work, know that it's emotionally and professionally taxing. So it is essential that you exercise some self-care. So that's what a sister's doing. In addition to that, I am gifting myself a needed vacation as I'm celebrating the fact that my son is graduating high school on June 4th. I'm going to be repping, I'm going to share my journey as a single mother, becoming an empty nester. I'm going to be blogging and vlogging about it and sharing what that journey looks like for me. And a lot of you don't know, but I had an addition to my household, a young man that I call one of my bonus babies. I have so many bonus babies the Lord has blessed me with. A best friend of my son and football team member. He joined our household. Both of these kids are graduating, y'all. I am so excited. These are two Black brothers. They're college bound, preparing to go out in society. So, yeah, I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating having done this with the help of the Lord, a whole lot of prayers and support from people. I'm celebrating this new chapter in my son's life, but also what mama did to help him get over that threshold, y'all. So look, I'm about to go on vacay. I'm going to be off the grid on an island, putting my feet in some sand. But I wanted to just get on here and share my thoughts with you. We are now 3 years out since the brutal, horrifying murder of George Floyd. You were there. I was there. It's been called the racial reckoning that was felt and heard across the globe. The cries for and demands for racial justice that were heard across the globe. We saw people in the middle of a global pandemic taken to the streets, masked, unmasked, after having watched this heinous video of a Black brother just mercilessly killed, right before America's eyes, right before the world's eyes. We saw the corporate community knee-jerk reaction to this heinous crime, right? All of these commitments to racial equity and racial justice causes, particularly Black-led organizations. We saw that. You were there. I was there. And to be exact, I can tell you that corporate America committed some $50 billion to Black-led social change causes during that time, right? We know that, and this was in 2020, we know that some of the largest multinational corporations in America made these commitments. We saw philanthropists like Mackenzie Scott come forward and make millions of dollars of investments in racial equity causes, namely Mackenzie Scott. Research shows that she committed, awarded, donated more than $567 million to racial equity causes, right? And research from Candid shows that community foundations granted $125 million to Black causes in 2020. I've been following this data really closely over the last few years. And in light of that $50 billion commitment, research that I conducted on my own, in addition to research that I came across from a firm, I think they're in Texas, called Creative Investment Research, identified just 250 million of that $50 billion that was allocated or committed to nonprofits. You heard that right. That's 250 million out of the 50 billion that was pledged or committed. Just $250 million was in fact awarded to Black-led nonprofits. Now, here's what else we know. Research from the National Committee for Responsive Philanthropy illustrates that some 18 community foundations established new grants or new funds that were earmarked specifically for Black-led nonprofits, right? These are, the Black Equity Funds, the Black Equity Initiatives, what have you. So I celebrate that those 18 community foundations came forward in 2020 and created these funds. But I'm going to be honest, it's not enough, right? It's not enough. And the knee-jerk reaction that we saw the corporate community have, in making these ginormous pledges that they didn't necessarily live up to, right? It still wasn't enough. The funding that was on the table in 2020 mirrors more of an episodic or crisis response type funding that is no longer on the table. And I've got to tell you, I talk to Black founders and Black nonprofit leaders every day that are impacted by this. They are impacted by the fact that there were dollars on the table, that there were dollars that were gifted to their organizations to support the mission critical work that they're doing in their communities, whether it's systems change work, whether it's anti-poverty initiatives, whether it's diversity initiatives, what have you. There were dollars on the table in 2020 and even 2021 that today in 2023 are no longer on the table. So what does that mean to me? How does that make sense to me? It means that corporate philanthropies infused Black-led nonprofits, Black-led causes with this huge infusion of cash, albeit insufficient, right? They made these infusions into Black-led organizations, into communities of color, in a knee-jerk reaction, awarded these episodic dollars to these organizations that benefited them in that space and time, but has severely fallen short of really helping them advance their missions and movements in a very sustainable way. What's the result? The result is tremendous fallout. I'm talking to Black founders that a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, were able to provide funding and resources to constituents in need, but are no longer able to do that in this space and time, in this moment, right? Did we solve racial equity? Did the issue of structural inequity suddenly go away? These are questions that I have. And how can companies, philanthropies in good conscience make a significant cash infusion into historically minoritized communities, into Black-led organizations, and just walk away as though the issue of structural racism and structural inequities has been addressed? I can tell you that there is severe fallout. I'm talking to more and more Black founders and nonprofit leaders from week to week, all over the country, region to region, nationwide, that are saying, listen, I had dollars that I no longer have. I'm under resourced. I don't necessarily have the high network, high stakes network to dial for dollars and people at my disposal to reach out to and engage, to help me procure or marshal resources that I need, right? The dollars that were on the table are no longer available to me, but guess what? I still have constituents in my communities that are relying on my services that are core to their survival. I still have kids that aren't getting 3 square meals a day. I still have brothers and sisters that are coming home from having done bids in prison that need support. And guess what? I don't have the resource to meet their needs. I still have expected mothers and, older adults and senior citizens that lack meals and access to healthcare resources and are facing health inequities that I don't have the resources to address. A year ago or 2 years ago, I had funding to address the shortfalls, but I no longer have that. And I'm going to tell you, I'm losing a little bit of sleep behind that. It almost feels like corporate America and philanthropies that got on this bandwagon and made these episodic gifts really exacerbated the wound that already existed, right, of Black-led organizations being subject to philanthropic discrimination, being historically underfunded. There's suddenly this cash infusion, right, that's episodic in nature, that is no longer on the table. And there are nonprofits, there are communities that are hurting as a result of that. And I'm here to tell you that. So I just wanted to stop by. I want to hold space for the Black leaders and nonprofits that are doing the best they can with what they have to respond to the needs of Black and brown people across America. I want to hold space for George Floyd's family that is having to relive this tragic blemish in, our history of having lost a dear loved one, having to relive this on this anniversary every year as we approach the anniversary of George Floyd's murder, which is tomorrow. It's May 25th. I want to hold space for that family. I want to hold space for any family that has lost a loved one to, at the hands of the police, that wasn't so publicly documented, folks that are still gripping with loss and grief. I want to hold space and remember and challenge you to say their names. Right now there's so many names on that list, Tyree Nichols being one of the most recent, right? I'm still remembering and grieving for Breonna Taylor and Sandra Bland, right? All of the carnage of Black lives at the hands of police, at the hands of injustice, at the hands of unconscious biases held against Black men and women in this country. I'm holding space today, and I'm holding space for my fellow Black nonprofit founders and leaders. I want to encourage you and assure you that I am in this fight with you, that I'm looking at, resources and aligning partnerships with folks that not just want to hold space, not just want to demonstrate empathy, but want to move resources to help stop the bleeding and stop the pain, right? To help address it. Will we ever stop it? I don't know. I'm an optimist. But can we at least stop some of the bleeding and get resources where they need to go to help advance the missions and movements of Black-led social change organizations nationwide? So as you close out your week, I just want to remind you to say their names, hold space for those that are still grappling with these losses, right? I'm encouraging you to, be kind, be extra kind to your Black co-workers, your Black and brown co-workers, folks that navigate life in this skin and this lived experience and are constantly inundated with reminders that our lives don't matter, that we're second class citizens. I want to hold space for all the Black girls. There was some research that came out of Oakland the other day from a nonprofit that's, crying out to the community because there's been an alarming uptick in the number of Black girls that are coming up missing, that no one's talking about, right? These reminders that Black lives don't matter in America. This is what we're up against, y'all, every day. And it hurts. I'm gonna stop talking about it because I don't want to wet my, tears to push my little eyelashes off because I'm getting ready to go to graduation, but it hurts. But I'm reaching out with, a message that I believe needs to be elevated. You can count on me to continue this conversation over the next several months, years if it takes it. I'm committed to uplifting what I am seeing happening, these disparities, these philanthropic disparities, and how they're impacting Black-led causes, right? And I'm committed to talking to groups and individuals, and I'm committed to working with anybody who is interested in deploying resources to stop the bleeding. You know where I'm at. Get at me. I don't care what color you are, Black, white, blue, purple. I don't care what your nationality is. If you're committed to resourcing organizations that are fighting structural racism, structural inequities like poverty, health inequity, mass incarceration, education inequity, holler at your girl. Let's talk about what we can get accomplished together, because it's gonna take us. And I just wanted to stop by and share this message that's on my heart. Be encouraged despite what's going on. It's like Pac said, it's going to be some stuff you're going to see that's going to make it hard to smile. But despite all of it, you got to keep a smile on your face and keep your sense of humor. Pac said that, I think in 94, in one of my favorite rap songs, him and Scarface, smile, smile for me now. Smile for me now. Y'all know the song. If you don't know the song, look it up. But stay positive. Holler at your girl. Look for my article that's going to be coming out that talks a little bit about the data, the metadata on corporate commitments made in 2020, how it started, how it's going. It ain't looking too bright, right? The last thing I want to say is, in addition to the funding attrition, my colleagues and I are doing a lot of discussions lately on just this whole fatigue that we're observing around DE&I measures and initiatives. We know that there were a record number of DE&I positions created in 2020, corporate DE&I roles, DEIB, DEI, equity, justice, you name it, right? A lot of folks were installed in these roles, particularly Black and brown women and men, that were more or less just tokenized, that were placed in these roles as window dressing, and quickly found that they were being tokenized and that they were basically impotent inside of their organizations and not able to institute policies and practices and values that would lead to, any kind of change or increased fostering of inclusion within these companies, right? We're going to be talking about that here over the next few weeks. The fatigue that we're seeing, the backlash that we're seeing, right, in the streets and inside of organizations. So I know I've talked longer than I intended to. If you're watching this live or on the replay, thank you. I appreciate this. And I appreciate your support. And I encourage you, lift this conversation up. If you work in the philanthropic space and you're watching this, I challenge you to go to your colleagues and decision makers and the powers that be and ask, what can we do about this, right? What can we do to ensure Black-led organizations are better resourced and to provide a lifeline to Black nonprofit leaders and founders? I challenge you to have that conversation. And if you're feeling, particularly up to it, reach out to me and let's have a conversation and talk about how we can sync up and align forces, because it's gonna take all of us to make a difference. Thank you for your time. And until next time, stay tuned, stay down, and keep your head up. It's your girl, Kia Crew, signing off. Vacay. See you soon.